What's up, people? I am back for another video. We're doing Stepfather 2, and then later tonight I'm gonna watch. I don't know if I'll review it. I gotta see how tonight goes. I probably should be able to. The remake. But Stepfather 2 basically continues the story with um Terry Quinn. He escapes the mental asylum he's sent to by killing his psychiatrist. He gains trust, kills him, kills a guard, dons a guard costume, kills a guy, dons the name Gene, and then he becomes Gene Clifford. I think that's what the name is. Who's a deceased man, and he marries a woman named Pam, I think is her name. She's the love interest. He basically wants her, but her husband Phil, who ran away at her, like you find out ran away, comes back, wants her back. He kills her, and that's basically the movie. He gains her. I'm gonna be real with you. I'm gonna be honest. Up until the third act, which I do feel like is very fucking rushed, I do think this one's a little bit better than the first. I think it flows a little bit better. I like this scene. I actually think the son not being the one who doesn't trust him, it works better than how they did in the first one with the daughter. I actually think it flows better. Um, though her friend Maddie, who doesn't trust him, because she gets learns Clifford that about Clifford, the real one is actually a black guy, and she tries. I think there should have been more with her. I think something should have happened where she escaped. She does get killed by him. She shouldn't have died. I think she should have lived longer. And I do feel like that third act where Pam finds out who he really is because she recognizes the bottle, and the son is, because mentioned earlier, her blind neighbor mentioned that somebody was over her house. Basically implied that it was murder, basically. That he heard someone leave her house and he was whistling a song called Camptown Races, which is what Jerry, I'm just going to call him Jerry, his real name, was singing. And then he basically attacks her, and then that's the third. It just feels a little rushed, man. I don't know. I don't know if it was like they ran out of footage or something like that, because this was like '89, so maybe I don't know. Maybe they were kind of rushing, because you could very much tell the third act's very rushed. It feels like we just like, okay, we got to get to this third act, because there's no build up to it. Because even in the first movie, I feel like there was a little bit of build up to where she found out, but then there should have been a moment she found out, but she's trying to play it off. It's no, even to the rush to the wedding. I don't know, but overall, I still think it's a pretty good movie. Largely, I think Terry Quinn gets much more character work in this film, but not too much to where it doesn't like go in his past, but it still does talk a little bit of that obsession with family. He moves across because he finds basically her. I was like, oh, I have a potential chance. He has a daughter. She's good looking. Because there's even videos he's trying to do that, like when because he's trying to get like potentially date another woman. And this was during that time people would like have those, I don't know if it's dating site or those dating tapes that people would have. And he was watching those, and none of them were. I'll admit that part was kind of funny. His reaction, like, ugh, like how these women were acting, was pretty funny. But overall, I think it's a solid film. I just think the way he gets into the family. I could see some arguments that it was a bit rushed because he kills Phil and they immediately get married. But I get why it works. He wants to get married because he wants to have kids, and like, because that's his obsession. He wants the perfect family, which they acknowledge in the first one a little bit, but this one does go more into it. So I gave the first one like I think I gave the first one an 8. I give this one like a 9. No, maybe not a 9. 8.5. I think this one is a bit better. I just think it flows better. I just think the third act's a bit rushed, but I still think it's watching this and the second one are pretty much a good 1 and 2. You can watch them both back to back. It kind of flows in together. The only thing is they don't really go into how long after the first one it is. I kind of assume it's like a couple years after the first one, but yeah. So overall, it's a solid film. So the plan is either I'm gonna watch it today, but I'm gonna try to review it tonight. If not, I'll do it tomorrow at some point. Maybe try to do it before we do Pin Down tomorrow. I'll try to do it then. Speaking of which, Pin Down podcast tomorrow. We should be streaming tomorrow, and tonight we should be doing a SmackDown review. That's part of the reason I don't know if I'm gonna be doing a video yet. That's why the plan is some point tonight we're gonna be reviewing SmackDown. So, anyways, yeah, let's I'm gonna try to look for a Screen Rant article so we can start season 2. Well, I'll see what I can find. It's just it's Halloween, so I'm gonna try to find like another, not necessarily Halloween franchise, like horror related one. So, but anyways, let's get into Stepfather 2. So what I liked about this movie pretty much starts where he's in a mental hospital after the events of the second film. They don't really explain how he survived because, yeah, you could argue the stabbing he got in the first one in the end, that very much looked lethal, but whatever. He gains the trust of the psychiatrist, telling him about his problem. And that's where you do get a little bit of his not backstory necessarily, but kind of his psyche, which he's mainly saying it just to gain psychiatrist's trust so he can have the moment to strike, which he does. Kills him with like a penknife, some kind of toy that he makes into a shank. Stabs the psychiatrist, kills the guard with the baton, and then dons the guard outfit and escapes and whistles. Which that whistle's going to be important because that comes later on. Which I do like when movies do that, like, have something, but then they call back to later on. So he then steals the guy's ID, like basically just kind of steals his car, dons the ID, and changes his appearance to pose as Gene Clifford, who's been actually dead since like the 70s. Poses him, and he becomes a psychiatrist basically as a way to find, because damaged women, these women have children and all that. He gives potentially a way to start a family. He meets I'm just gonna say Pam. I don't know if that's her actual name. Is Pam or Susan? It was a name like that. It's a name like that. And she tells him, about Phil and what happened, and he takes a liking to her. She even helps him move in. He moves in across the street from her. And I will admit, this scene where he's watching like potential dates, because this is like, I don't know, I'll be honest, I wasn't around at the time because this was 89, but when people had like video like dates where the women and men would like be sitting in a room talking about themselves and they would send it. So he tried to do that, and yeah, it was a bunch of crazy chicks. It was pretty funny. And then he starts, falling for her, and he actually starts wooing her. She even lets him come over for dinner, and he helps build her son Todd like a skate ramp, and like kind of like in the first one, gains the trust. And I'll bet this part of it is done much better than the first. I like the first one. But the only thing the first one has beat over this one is definitely that opening. That opening is wild in that first film. You can't beat that. But I do very much think the way he kind of gets to the family is done much better it feels more organic too. I don't know. I felt like in the first one, I didn't say in the video, but the more I think about it, thought about it, it really did feel like, okay, we got to kind of get them together now, just because plot, But here it did feel a bit more natural. Though Phil wants to reconcile, so he convinces Pam to send him over to so he can check her out. He can check him out, and in reality, it's so he can kill him. He kills him pretty much, and I'm gonna be real. If I had a criticism, and I get it, you needed him to be part of the film. I would have rather it just be a potential suitor. That's what it should have been. It just should have been a guy who potentially he saw she was going on a date with, not her husband. I think that part of it was forced. It didn't really, I didn't meet that aspect. But It was still a good kill though. He hits him over the head with a beer bottle and then stabs him with the broken part, and then drives his car to the junkyard. And basically, well, it's a way to dispose of the evidence because he knows they're going to get rid. And he's in a trunk. And generally, at least I'm assuming at the time, or at least I'm assuming in the movie, they didn't check the trunk. They just saw it's a car that can junk. So I mean, it is what it is. I mean, to be fair, it didn't look suspicious. If you're a guy junk in the car, the car didn't look off at all. It's like, oh, another car. And then while this is happening, Pam tried to call him like at his hotel, but he never picked up. While this is happening, I mean, this scene was pretty good. You saw Jerry in the background put his basically start packing all of Phil's stuff, so it makes it look like he just ran off, and he basically arranged to where it ran off again. And her friend Maddie, who I think you saw earlier, she was I think she was one of his patients you saw earlier, but then he had to go because this is the scene where he saw Phil go into Pam's house. So yeah, but Maddie starts kind of feeling weird about Phil. It's even a scene where she says she feels weird about him, but you can kind of tell Pam was liking him. But then yeah, so it looks like Phil ran off. So Pam, he convinces Pam that Phil just ran off. I don't know what happened, and then oh no, there's a scene after coming back from killing Phil and disposing of his body at the landfill, at the junkyard. Not the landfill, the junkyard. Todd comes over because Todd initially, there's a scene where Phil wanted like to see his son do something and do like a skate trick, and he's like, no, I don't want to do it because he's mad at his dad. And then he kind of goes to, he goes to Gene, obviously not thinking anything's wrong, right? For advice. And he's like, gives him advice and gives him some water and all that. So he gets closer to the son, right? And then, yeah, obviously he's with the wife now, with the mom, because eventually they get together. They announce to get married. And this is where Maddie starts having her doubts. She even tries to go to Pam initially, but she's like, obviously Pam's smitten in love. So I do think it's more believable, too. It's her friend. She's like, you just met this guy. We don't know anything about him, and you're already married to him. It's one thing if you're just dating him, but like marrying him, right? That's such a big leap. And obviously he's pushing to get married because he wants the perfect family. And I really think I like that they do expand on that idea in this sequel. I think that's the one thing that really, if you want to call, I guess, a theme, right, of the movie, it's that. And he then obviously one day when she's checking the mail, she sees a message sent to Clifford, but she finds a picture of him and it's a black dude. So she realizes he's not who he says he is. They arrange a meeting and she basically tries to convince him to leave, and he basically agrees to, I will be the one to tell her who I am, not you. And then, he has sex with Pam at night. He kills, after having sex with Pam, he sneaks off into Maddie's house and kills her. Strangles her, but then he makes it look like suicide. He even uses a typewriter to type a suicide letter. Sorry, YouTube. I know I'm never getting monetized, so I'm not gonna censor the word suicide. I think self-delete, if anything, sounds far more fucking... That sounds worse to me. You saying, oh, she self-deleted herself. No. He made it look like she committed suicide. So, and he then kind of diagnosed her because Pam asked what happened, and he said, like, she was lonely, and she basically, he made it seem like she was just always, that Maddie thought she was going to be lonely for the rest of her life, and she realized that, so she just ended it. So, he then takes a bottle after he kills her. He takes a bottle of, like, I'm assuming champagne or wine. It's one of the two. And he takes it and goes back to his wife, gives her the bottle, and, they hook up kind of deal. Initially, she wants to cancel the wedding, but he convinces her not to. and the wedding goes on. And this is basically the third act, really. She realizes that the bottle she had, he is the same one at the wedding, meaning he lied where he got it. And oh, before that, I should have mentioned her neighbor, who's blind but he can still hear, heard Jerry leaving her house, and he was humming I forgot, it's Camp Town Dances or something. I forgot what the song's actually called, but Camp Town Races or something like that. And he mentioned the hum, and then she heard later on. This is the part where she realizes she hears her son humming. And he mentions that Gene taught her, and that's when she basically realized he killed her. She confronts him, and that's when he snaps, and that's basically when we get the chase, and he tries to kill her. He beats the shit out of her, I will say. He, like, throws her around and shit. Like, I will say that they didn't hold back on this third act being kind of violent, I will say. I just think they rushed it a little bit. Like, I really feel like you could have dragged that. There could have been another maybe 10 minutes, 10, even 20 minutes even, of, like, build to that third act. I felt like that moment she realized, but she should have just immediately realized, then confronted him. Because realistically, she shouldn't. If she knows he killed her friend, why would she confront him right there and then and there, especially with her son there? So I feel like, I don't know. Maybe she should have tried to call the police. I think you could have stretched that third act a little bit. I get it. I don't know if some real life stuff happened where the studio had to rush it, because sometimes that happens. They run out of film, or they don't have the money to keep going, so they're like, okay, guys, we got to rush this third act so we can just wrap it up. And maybe that's these cases here. I think that's the case here. Honestly, it makes sense, because the third act feels very fucking rushed. There's no build up. Immediately, she realizes and confronts him. Then he tries to kill her. Basically, Todd gets locked in a room by Gene, or to say Jerry at this point, Jerry, and he nearly has her down, but then Todd gets out. He gets a hammer, hits Jerry once, before he stabs her, and then Jerry tries to, like, appeal to his, like, oh, you won't hit me again, right? And then he hits him again, and seemingly it looks like he dies, but so does Pam, because she did get beat up a lot and lost a little bit of blood. So I think he did stab her a couple of times. So I'm assuming it implied that she and him both died. That's how I took it. I didn't watch the third one, because I know there is a third one. I think it's the same character, but it's just he got recast. I'm not going to watch it. And it's probably some straight to DVD bullshit anyway. And I don't hate all straight to DVD movies, but in this case, it makes no sense. If it's not even going to be the same guy, if it was the same guy, maybe I'd actually watch it. But that's why I watched this one. But if he's not going to be in it, there's no point. So if I'm going to watch him be recast, might as well just watch the remake. At least the remake, that's a remake. So we'll see how the remake goes. I'm hoping it's decent. I'm not one of those guys that think all remake. There are some really good, especially in the horror genre. I do think there are some really good remakes out. Hills Have Eyes, Texas Chainsaw, My Bloody Valentine. Those three are like an example of. I think those are better than the original, honestly. I know some people don't like Rob Zombie's Halloween, but I do, as its own movie. I like the Friday the 13th remake. So there is some good remakes out there. So I'm hoping this is one. I've not seen it. I actually remember seeing trailers for it, though, back in, I think it was 2009 when this came out. So we'll see how it goes. I think I've only seen the opening of it, because I just wanted to compare. And the opening, I can already tell it's not as good. I still think it still works, because the idea is still there, but I think it hits harder than the original. But we'll see it. I'm going to watch it in the context of the film, and maybe it'll play there, because I watched it as a clip. So, maybe will play differently if I watch it in the movie. So, I'll be watching that later tonight. I'll try to review it tonight, but I got to see what's going on with this, because I'm going to be recording my SmackDown review with the guys later for Pin Down. So, we'll see. That's part of the reason I said I don't know if I'm going to be doing the video. I'm going to try though, and then if not, I'll do it tomorrow. And then the weekend, more than likely, will just be Screen Rant is Gay, because whatever fucking reason, Smile 2 is taking fucking forever to go on the seas. So honestly. Until then, until it goes on the seas, I don't know. I'll either find something else to review or something like that. So, anyways, guys, I'm gonna get ready to call it here. All right, y'all. Pin down podcast and should be in. Say this for now, unless something happens, but we should be able to do a SmackDown review tonight. Look out for that. And then tomorrow, Pin Down podcast, we'll have our big mainstream. We'll be back finally with the stream. But other than that, guys, Stepfather remake review either late tonight or tomorrow, or early tomorrow. And yeah, but I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.